Howdy, hey, hello, it's McKenna, and this is Munch and Mingle. Welcome back. We are here beginning our Saturday afternoon session of General Conference, April 2026. It's fascinating that we are moving this fast. I'm so happy you're here, whether you've been here a long time or this is your first time. Get ready. I hope it is a great journey for you, as it is for me. I noticed the other day, I haven't really been sticking to the whole reason we call it Munch and Mingle is because I usually would have a munchie while we talk. So I do miss that. It's hard right now, just in the situation we are with the pregnancy and these shorter episodes, and I'm not able to have guests on as frequently as we have in the past. Just know I haven't forgot that. We'll definitely try to get it back as soon as we get through, most likely the summer, a little bit into fall. That is my goal, is to at least have some more guest and munchie filled episodes before the end of the year. So my goal to you, I set. How has your week been? How have you been since last week's episode? How have we been doing with our prayer? I got to check in, I feel like I just moved straight on to the next talk, but I want to hear how it's been going. Do you have a nice little prayer closet, a little prayer corner, whatever, a place, a sacred space that you can just go and you can talk to and commune with the Lord? If you don't know what I'm talking about, definitely go back to last week's episode, Henry B. Irene's talk. It's a great one. Still just thinking about it, but I'm so excited to go into today's talk as well. It is from Elder Stevenson. And when I saw the title and I read it through the initial first time, I was like, oh, that was a pretty good talk. And then I was reading through it again. And particularly this weekend, something hit that I was like, oh my goodness. And this happens to you sometimes, where the talk is just transformed right before you. Your eyes get a little watery. Your head is like exploding with like, this is directly to me. Like this talk was given exactly for this moment that is happening in my life. And that is what happened this weekend. So we will go through all of that. But before we do, let's get into our bio. Now, I've told you guys that I'm trying to do better with these episodes, not worrying so much about the notes, because I found myself getting more I don't know what it is. Like my focus can only handle so much during this pregnancy. And I was getting to a point where it was like, I'd be getting into the episodes and I'm like, I have a headache. I have a straight up headache. I have to like calm down, and just timing and everything wasn't working. So the past couple of episodes, I really have just tried to do a quick read through and just pray that I can remember all the thoughts. I hope it's come out okay. It's hard for me because I still am like, oh, I felt like I rambled too much there or whatnot. So today I did do, as everything's dropping, a quick no. I made sure to be like, no, we're not getting into like what I usually try to do where I get too in depth, because that's where I was getting into a struggle. So we'll see how we go today. I'm getting all situated in my tiny little nook. Let's talk about Elder Stevenson. We're also starting to get to the point where I don't know if we have done a bio on some of the past speakers, or at least apostles. I can't remember if we've already done one on Elder Stevenson. So I apologize. If so, I don't feel like I knew this information about him, or at least it hits differently because of what we're going to talk about in his talk today. But again, just bear with me. And above all, I hope you guys know, every episode I pray before we start. I just pray that the Spirit will be here. I definitely do not feel like a gospel scholar at any really level. This is such beginner level, and this is just a way for me to try to talk out the thoughts in my head. But in one way, I hope that it can reach anyone else if I can just be able to change one person's thought, or maybe be like, hey, actually, I didn't know that's what that talk meant, or this means deeper than I thought when I originally heard it. That's the goal here. So I just pray wherever you are today, whatever you're doing, that the Spirit can touch you through what we talk about today and whatever you need to hear. And as I always say, if it's just me, that's okay too, because I was touched. So what I thought was interesting about Elder Stevenson is he has had a very close relation with Asia. Does that make sense? Yeah. So he was called on a mission to Japan. I don't know the exact mission, or I won't say it right. But it was cool because not only was he called as a missionary, he then got later called back with his wife and his family to serve as president over another mission in Japan. And then they weren't done yet. I'm trying to make sure I get all this right. They then were called back again when he was in the 70s and was president over the church's Asia North area. So I thought that was really interesting. And again, I just wanted to point that out because he will talk about something in Japan in this talk. So I just thought it was really cool. And I love to see that it's like, oh, this is a lot. Like, this has a really deep meaning in his life, in his family's life, being in Asia. And it sounds like, yeah, they were able to raise their kids. So he is from Utah. I'm jumping down. And he met Cache Valley, Utah. And he met his wife, who was an Idaho native, at Utah State University. They got married in 1979 in the Idaho Falls, Idaho Temple. And then they raised 4 sons in northern Utah, the same area where he grew up. He was the co-founder and president of Icon Health and Fitness Incorporated, a business in the health and fitness industry that would take him to all the corners of the world. And yeah, and then in between was getting called to be a president over a mission. And then back when he was called as a general authority. So yeah, I think they did a lot of raising in Asia, in both the USA and Asia, which is so great. And I just think that's really cool. So I just wanted to make sure there was a really cool quote here when he got called to be an apostle. And I just think this is great for all of us who get called into any calling to remember this. Sorry, just getting pulled up. Okay. He said that in his calling as an apostle, it is very humbling, and it has prompted his focus on not what I can't do, but on what I can do. And the longer I was just thinking about that, and no matter what calling you're in, I think it's so easy to sit there and list out all the things you can't do, all your weaknesses, or to compare what the other person in your calling was doing before and be like, I can't do that. This is just a great reminder that if we just focus on what we can do and let that lead first, the other things start to fill in. So that was something I didn't even know was going to be talked about, but I definitely need to hear that too. So let us get into the meat of this talk. His talk, Elder Stevenson, is labeled Lost Luggage, Redeemed Souls. And you're going to hear my lovely catalog because I know we've talked about this, but I think everyone needs to have a printed one. I know we can get it on our phones, and trust me, I use that too, but I'm telling you, there is just something, call it the missionary in me. Like, this is how a lot of my study was done on the mission, but especially having this, there's something about it. It just feels right. So he starts out talking about a report from Osaka, Japan, about my Asian is not great, along with every other language beside English. The Kansai International Airport, they hold a world record that after 30 years of operation and processing hundreds of millions of pieces of cargo, carry-ons, and cases, this airport has not lost one item of luggage. Not one single piece. That is crazy. Luckily, I have never had my luggage lost thus far, fingers crossed. But just to hear like as a whole, that the whole airport, because I know obviously people have, that they haven't for 30 years, that's incredible. And so he goes on to talk about it's the thoroughness and attention to detail. The airport chief of baggage operations guy that's kind of his attitude. It permeates through the whole airport and it is contagious. They also have a principle, the Japanese people, called Kaizen. And I think Michaela Johnson, she's been on this podcast, told me about this. Like her dad talked about it. I swear I've heard this word and it was from her. But it basically stands for, it encapsulates a mindset of constantly searching for and implementing minor improvements. This practice requires a quiet discipline of always looking for small ways to make processes better. And I think that is a nice way to live. Just constantly 1% better. Little small improvements every day. Understanding we're still human and we might still make mistakes. I mean, in this case, the airport has not lost one single piece of luggage. That doesn't mean they're still not human and might have other things that we're working on still. But it's just a good reminder to me like, hey, yeah, I like that feeling of wanting to do better and be better every day. So then we get hit with this incredible simile. Is that the right word? I just said my English was good. Maybe we're going to find out. But he goes into switching the subject over to our Heavenly Father's love. And how, because as he's building up the story, and you got to go read the talk about when you let go of your luggage, it can be a little nerve-wracking, especially if there's like very precious things that you wanted to have it in your carry-on, you wanted to keep it on your person the whole flight, versus if it gets pulled and you're just like crossing your fingers like, I need that bag back. How the same is with Heavenly Father and sending his most precious belongings, his children, away from their heavenly home. And knowing they're going to come through so many challenges of mortality, are they going to make it back or not? And this is where I like read it a couple times this week. And for some reason this weekend, it just was like, oh my goodness. So later on, I'm looking at all the paragraph numbers in the magazine, but I think it's on the app too. But in 17 and 18, it says how beloved and precious his children are to him, and how beloved and blessed are those who care for and nurture others. This is where the whole talk starts to like come together in the meat of it, is talking about the love that Heavenly Father has for each and every one of us. And then also this great duty and responsibility that we have here on earth to help care for each other. So if my leg would stop giving me a Charlie horse, I want to talk about this story. And it's obvious, it's a true story. It's a personal story in my life. Without giving too much detail, there is a certain relation in my life, a young woman in my life who our paths crossed. Oh my goodness. I know she was 5 when I met her, and I must have been 12. So our paths crossed and ultimately came together and blended into our lives are blended into our family. And from the beginning, me and this little girl did not get along. And that was hard for me because even at the age of 12, I felt like I loved being around kids. I loved getting to watch kids whenever I could, to play with the kids. I was one of the older nieces in my family on both sides. So I was always used to having younger siblings, younger cousins, and it was good. But for some reason, me and this one just had a harder time. And it wasn't anything that I was like, okay, yeah, like anything that would come up, I would try to be like, okay, she's just a little more ornery today. She's going to be a little bit more angry today. That's fine. But in the ways that our paths crossed, we had to see each other more on a daily basis than normal. And because of that, just like anyone, just like when you grow up with certain siblings, there's going to be more time and opportunity for you to get annoyed at things, for you to butt heads, for you to argue and fight and whatnot. And so that's kind of what happened. Now, the thing that would bother me the most is, even though for this little girl, she knew from a very young age how to start drama. And that sounds crazy. Even as I'm saying it, I'm like, how did this happen? But there would just be, we would be all in a room and everything could be fine. Everything was normal. Everything was everyone was happy. And she just would all of a sudden switch and she'd say something. She would purposely try to get someone in a fight with her or get someone yelling. And it was bizarre to me because, especially back then when I was younger, I was a heavy people pleaser. So it was like, let's just stay happy. Everyone stay happy. We're cool. We're cool. So to watch that happen and see like the shift and watch her be a part of it and like fueling it, that's what would get me so bothered. Like, why are you doing this? Like, why can we not just calm down? And she knew all the right triggers to get the adults in the room going. And so it was chaos. So for a while, for the longest time, actually, it got to a point that if I ever saw her walk in a room, I would leave because I would just already be like, no, I'm not going to be here when the world starts to like erupt and go crazy in this world. So after hearing that, I know, I'm sure you guys probably all have someone in your life too who has done that or done similar things where you're just like, I can't. Well, let me give you a little bit more backside. Now, I didn't know a lot of this growing up. I've come to know it as I've gotten older. Let me give you the backside of this girl. So she is, of her biological family, the only daughter. She was the only girl. She never had any full sisters. She had some half sisters. She had some stepsisters, but never had like a true blood OG sister. She did have some brothers, and that was basically it. She was the only girl and brothers. And her parents divorced, and that was tricky. They lived pretty much full time with her mom. Her mom was in and out of constant relationships, different guy after different guy. And from what I knew, whether or not it was openly admitted out loud or not, I don't know, but it's kind of like, you knew, her mom, this little girl's mom, made it known that she was not her favorite. She preferred her sons over her daughter. And even now, as I say it, I'm like, oh my gosh, my heart breaks. So she grew up with that. And a lot of the things she would do, you can see why she was trying to get attention, because clearly she was getting not neglected as well. Yeah, yes, she would just constantly be looked over. And so that's kind of where I was going from. Now, the older she got, the relationship with her mom never got really better. And about a couple years ago, her mom actually ended up committing suicide. And it's weird because you almost think maybe having that presence not in her life would help, because it was so abusive. It was so negative. There was so much bad that was coming from that relationship with her and her mom. And yet, what do you think it did? It spiraled her more. And the more I've thought about it as I've gotten older, I'm like, it makes sense. Duh. So this weekend, that young lady who's now a young woman had a baby this weekend. And I was feeling a lot of the feels because I'm like, wait, there's still so much healing that she has to do. And now we're bringing a baby into it and all the things. And we saw a picture of the baby this morning. And immediately my heart just was like, oh. And whether or not it's because I'm pregnant and, I'm just ready to see our baby girl, I was just looking at this baby and my heart, I was like, look at this perfect child. No matter what is about to happen, like there is this perfect being. And there are so many people who are already gathering around to ensure that this baby is going to be taken care of, is going to be loved, us included, me and Britt. So here's that. Now we go into this talk and why it impacted me so much. So just so you got a little bit of context from where I'm coming from. As Elder Stevenson goes into this this point about Heavenly Father's love and how precious his children are to him, he says something that just melts the heart. Basically, Heavenly Father has claim on all of us, on every single person that says, "You are mine. I know you. You are not alone. I have not forgotten you. And I intend to bring you home." This is redemption. And that's just, I realized in the story I just told, this applies to this young woman. And this applies to her mom too. And this applies to her baby. Everyone has an origin story. And I just kept thinking about all the people that I've even had issues with or I've dismissed because I'm like, I just can't deal with them and I need to take them out of my sphere of happiness. I just can't deal with their issues right now. We talked about this in another talk. Oh, it was a couple talks back. Basically talking how we've almost become too comfortable with, nope, you're not going to mess up my day, so I'm just not going to deal with you. This is, I believe, another call to us from an apostle who is saying, hey, we're almost getting too comfortable with being alone and forgetting that we do have a holier and higher purpose to not only worry about making sure we're okay, but making sure we are making sure other people are okay. And again, remembering, just as I was telling you that story about this young woman and building it up, I'm sure you could already agree with me, oh my gosh, yeah, I would have done the same thing. Get out of the room as soon as she enters. But when you hear the backstory, it almost is like, oh, okay, I give her some more grace. I feel bad and I understand I can be a little bit more patient. And trust me, I wish too that we could just see this in everyone. For the person who cuts us off in traffic, or the lady who is not helpful in customer service the day that we need to return something. And we're just like, why are there just the meanest people in this world? And yet, if I could just go in and just see what happened to them a day, or what's happened to them in their life to make them like this. What do we always say? The villain origin story. If we could just see that, how much easier it would be to okay, I'll give you a pass. You know what? I'm not going to let this affect me because you clearly have had way more issues or way more obstacles than I've had. And that's the thing, is Heavenly Father knows that. And that's why he can independently and confidently say no, I know you. You are mine. Regardless of all these obstacles and trials and hardships in your life, I have not and will not forget you. And I intend to bring you home. And the more I keep thinking about this, I'm like, this is the call to us. We have got to reach out to those around us. Now, where do we start? Elder Stevenson goes into basically two groups. He goes into ministering and how it is our sacred call to minister to those that we've been assigned to in our ward. And I also believe, he doesn't put it here, but I think we can all feel it. There are other people we know in our life that it's hey, I might need to reach out to them too. And then the second group is ministering to the rising generation. So when we go over ministering and our sacred call, have you honestly, have you looked on your app, or are you aware of who you minister to? And then, do you know them? I think it just comes down to that basic question. Now, I want to share an idea. I was in ward council today, and we were talking, it wasn't even talking about ministering. We were talking about what do you do when you're trying to get announcements out to people in the ward who might not have access to the Living Gospel app or the circles that the church is heavily using to get information around now. And the idea was given hey, maybe we have physical announcements that their ministers ministering sisters or brothers can hand to them. And I was sitting there and I was like, wait a minute. The girls I minister to, they have access to circles. They know how to use it. But can I use that? Because that, honestly, I don't know about you. I do better almost when I have like an assignment or like a purpose is I guess I should say. Because even having like, oh yeah, I minister to you. You're like, I'm assigned to minister to you. It's still for me awkward. Like I feel like it still comes with that feel of easier to shut me down. And that's what makes it harder sometimes to go and do it because I'm like, it still just doesn't feel natural or normal. So I actually was like, hey, I might adopt that just to be like, it kind of gets my foot in the door a little bit. If I am a walking bulletin board for my ministering sisters, and hopefully it gets me into a better, closer relationship. But I was just thinking, I was like, this would be so nice if I could like have something to go like, hey, heads up, there's a ward barbecue this weekend. Are you going? Or even just stopping by like, hey, they're just having us all, we want to get out the announcements or Relief Society's asked us to do this. Also, how are you? What's going on? Like, it's an easier icebreaker is I guess how I was thinking it. And so that was something I was like, ooh, I could share that. I'll be the walking bulletin for my ministering sisters. And hopefully that can turn into, oh, I talk to them all the time now. Like it's not even awkward for me anymore. That was just something I was like, ooh, I could definitely share that. But he even goes over that we are to watch over our church members and be with and strengthen them. And the greatest success truly is when we act in normal and natural ways. And so that was kind of my like, hey, this feels a little bit normal and just kind of natural, like nothing too crazy, nothing weird, but just a nice little way. But I really like that he said, consider your ministering assignment as a Christ-like caring of the Lord's most treasured possessions, who at the end of their mortal journey can be claimed and redeemed by him. And I just thought that was so cool that it's like, yeah, I want to know that when I get to stand before Heavenly Father, that I was like, oh yeah, I know them too. Like I was able to build a relationship with them and we were able to help each other. What's that quote? It's like, yeah, you can get to heaven by yourself, but you'll get there faster with others. So I don't know, just something like that. But then he goes on to ministering to the rising generation. And something that really stuck out with me is to invest our time and teaching with them. Now, this one especially hits going over everything, but especially when we have our own kids, being a mom and whatnot. This is something that Britt and I have really been trying to focus on because I feel like this is where the adversary, I don't know if anyone else feels this is where the adversary is really trying to get at the root of the family is separating the kids from the parents, doing as much as he can to be like, hey, give them over to someone else or give them over to something else. Let them kind of do it because you've got too much on your plate. As an adult in this world, you've got to take care of yourself. You need to give yourself more self-care. And by the time that we think we're done with the self-care, it's like our kids are teenagers or moving out. Like that's how I just keep thinking it. And it's at least how it came up in my head today. So that was something, and he goes into a very long talk about it, really focusing on the rising generation. And I do believe that they are an important part. Whatever is coming, we need the testimonies of our youth, of our primary kids, our young men and young women, and our YSA to really help us in the older generation, which is so sad that it's like, oh, we're in the older generation now, but that's fine. That's okay. That is all right. I really feel like we're in a place where we've got to focus on this time with them and really showing them more than just telling them, right? We know that because clearly they're watching so much every day, whether it be on an iPad or they're watching you. Like it's kind of one or the other, I think. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe they're either watching it on a screen or they're watching you in real life. So what's it going to be? And that was just kind of the big thing that I was like, ooh, okay, I want to invest my time here, because once again, our children are the Lord's children just as much as we are his. And so it's another thing that I want to stand before and be like, this is what we did. This is how we tried to raise your children too. There's so much emotion. My head is just going all over the place with this. There was a lot of tears this weekend with this talk. As we go to the end of this talk, we're reminded that each of us is ultimately responsible for our own decisions, beliefs, and actions, but that we can be assisted by heavenly and earthly ministering angels. This was the just chef's kiss. That, again, that claim that Heavenly Father has on us really testifies that this precious soul has great worth to one day be redeemed by its holder, never to be forgotten, neglected, or lost. I couldn't think of a better way to just be talked about and reminded, and I hope you carry this promise on your heart this week, that you are never going to be forgotten. No matter what happens in our daily lives with other people who are human beings who are on their own path, you still have a Heavenly Father, a loving Heavenly Father who knows you, who has not forgotten you, who will not neglect you, who will not lose you, who will welcome you back with his open, loving arms one day. And we can pray for people around us to help lift us up. And we can pray to have our eyes open, our ears open to see who is it that we can assist today on our mortal journey. So grateful that we got to go over this talk. I hope you were able to pull so much out of this talk as well. I'm so grateful you're here. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week. Bye.